Hey, this is Stephen Adams. I'm an audio tech at CBC in Saskatoon. I'm also a fan of this podcast, This is Saskatchewan. Do what I did and hit follow on your favorite podcast app. The team drops 2 episodes a week, Wednesday and Fridays, and I promise you, these are stories about Saskatchewan you won't want to miss. Okay, let's get on with the show.
Hi, I'm Alicia Gervinsky. This is Saskatchewan. If you drive along Courtney Street to the edge of northwest Regina, you will see a large school jutting out into the prairie, separate from almost all the development in the area. It kind of looks like it's surrounded by a farmer's field. The building is shared by Regina Public and Regina Catholic schools. Plainsview Elementary is in one half of the building. St. Nicholas is in the other. The schools opened in 2017, and they are full. Kids from several neighborhoods across the road make the trek to this school. Aside from that school building and a few built-up blocks, the land remains vacant. But that is going to change over the next few years.
Coopertown!
Last fall, construction began on a brand new neighborhood called Coopertown. And by the time it's done, 36,000 people are expected to call it home. That's bigger than the current population of Moose Jaw. And some people are saying, wait a minute, Plainsview and St. Nicholas are already full. How will these schools accommodate a whole new neighborhood with 36,000 people? So this begs a few questions. If you build a new neighborhood, does it come with a school? And just how full are some of our schools? Katie Swyers is a reporter with CBC Saskatchewan. She's our guest today on the podcast as we dig for some answers. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
So start by telling me more about Coopertown.
Coopertown has some lore behind it in Regina. The developer Dream acquired the land back in 2013, saying at the time construction would begin shortly.
Starting in 2015, the first of over 34,000 people will begin to call Coopertown home.
Nothing actually happened for another decade, though.
There was a sign that said Coopertown coming soon, and it degraded.
The planned neighborhood was mired in red tape and delays. Developers were waiting on approval by Regina City Council to front the cost for large infrastructure projects, pump and sanitation stations. And then finally this fall, it was announced shovels were going into the ground. We spoke to Dream's VP of Land Development, Jason Carlston, at the groundbreaking ceremony. He said they expect to have 220 residential lots in the first phase of development, but what is not included is a new school.
There'll be several schools throughout Coopertown as we go. Just in the first phase, we won't have one because one's not needed. So we've got a 200-acre plan here, working with the city and the ministries on whatever the school requirements they would have. With the school that was located in Rosewood, that's eased the pressure in the northwest, so we don't have the same pressures on student population here.
The school in Rosewood he's referring to is the one that houses Plainsview and St. Nicholas. I reached out to the school divisions to find out how much space they have, and they both said that their schools are pretty full. St. Nicholas is using 5 portable classrooms, and Plainsview was above 100% capacity for the 2024 school year.
So they do sound pretty full, and then we're about to see a ton more people in this area of the city soon. So are any parents concerned about that?
Yeah, I spoke briefly with a few parents after the Coopertown construction announcement. The feeling was space is already tight. Sandy Pura is the grandmother of 2 children at St. Nicholas.
Well, I think the school is pretty well crowded now. He just started kindergarten this year, but as far as I know, it's pretty full, and we're expecting to get it even more full with the new development happening right behind.
We should note here that Regina Catholic schools say they don't have capacity concerns at St. Nicholas. In addition to her, one parent at Plainsview Elementary told me, "We're not even worried about Coopertown yet. It's years out before people move in. There are other nearby housing developments which are a lot further along, including Rosewood neighborhood homes, which are currently for sale right next to the school, so pressure will come from those first."
Mm-hmm. Okay, but what about other neighborhoods in Regina? How are schools in other neighborhoods managing?
Yeah, when it comes to overcrowding in Regina schools, I think Harbor Landing comes to mind for many people.
We are beyond the design capacity. We are now into just, are we functioning and safe? We've had 6 years of this problem. You would think that they could get in front of it.
That's Kathleen Eisler speaking to CBC in 2023. Her kids started attending Harper Landing Elementary School right when it opened in 2017, and almost immediately it was packed. Libraries, staff rooms, and science labs were all converted into classrooms. Boundaries had to be redrawn with 200 kids rezoned, and the French immersion program was shifted to a different school in 2020. Public planning reports from Regina Public shows the school was built to accommodate up to 650 students, and the school division knew when the Ministry of Education approved the elementary school that it would reach, quote, maximum capacity at or shortly after opening. So the following year after it opened in 2018, enrollment was already over 700 students, and it went up from there. Almost 1,000 kids are attending Harbour Landing School this year. The school division knew in 2017 that a second school was needed before the start of the fall 2020 school year, yet construction on that new building did not start until last August. It's being built like 400 meters away from the existing Harper Landing School, and construction is not scheduled to be finished until 2027, a decade, essentially, after it was known that a new school would be needed.
What's the situation in Saskatoon?
Well, we know from both school divisions that there are some schools which are quite full. At the Catholic school division, 4 schools have closed their enrollment boundaries. This means if you live outside that area, your child cannot go to a school there. So those are the schools in Stonebridge, Evergreen, in Hampton Village, and in Rosewood. The division also said all 4 of those schools have the maximum number of portables that they were designed to take, and all those schools currently have more students than they were designed to accommodate, so between 105 and 126% capacity.
Wow, so those are Catholic schools. It's a similar story with Saskatoon Public. There are 4 schools with closed boundaries in the same neighborhoods as those Catholic schools. So we're talking about Stonebridge, Evergreen, Hampton Village, and Rosewood.
I want to focus in on the school that's in Evergreen for a moment. So that's Sylvia Fedoric. It's an elementary school in the northeast corner of the city. Sheldon Alderton's daughter is a grade 7 student there, and along with, she goes to school with almost 1,050 other kids.
Wow, that's big.
Yep, it's sizable. And so, Sheldon also sits on the parent and school community councils.
And what types of concerns does he have?
Classroom size, the student-teacher ratio, but also a lot of practical things that come from having so many people in one space. He says school pickup and drop-off is always a mess. There are cars everywhere. And that's not even what's happening inside the building.
Between classes, it's absolute chaos in the hallways. Some students choose not to go to the washroom because the lineup's too big. They can't get in. The bathrooms are just kind of overcrowded. And fire access, right? That's another thing. Evacuation, whether it's safe to get these students out if the case of emergency. So far, we've been told that we're under those thresholds. However, the practical implication of that is bathrooms where students might be missing some time or choosing not to go or trying to go in class, maybe disrupting learning time because that's the only time that it's quiet and easy and accessible for them to go.
Sheldon says that this school was originally designed to have breakout rooms and spots that could function like art rooms, but none of that is happening right now.
We don't have any of that. We put up false walls in every single one of those spaces, and they're all used as a classroom right now. At one point, the staff room was a classroom because we did not have enough space before a portable arrived. The process is very reactive. The portables arrive after you have a space problem.
He says Sylvia Fedoric has requested 2 more portables, but that decision ultimately rests with the province, and there's no guarantee that the ministry will approve that.
So you mentioned that he sits on 2 councils for the school. Are there specific things that they're trying to do to solve this?
Yeah, they've taken to inviting elected officials to come take tours of the school. He says the goal is for them to see the crowding firsthand.
To see what a classroom of 28, 32, 36 students actually looks like, to see what it looks like when the bell rings and all those students filter into the hallways and you can't talk to the person next to you because it's so loud and you can't move, right? So that way when they go down to Regina and they're having these discussions of who gets a portable, how and why, they can maybe reflect on that time that they were in that hallway in Sylvia Fedoric and realize, oh my goodness, this place is bursting at the seams. I think a lot of the response from the city, from the province, and from the communities is kind of putting Band-Aids over the problem just to keep us carrying on. But we're getting to a point where that's just not going to cut it anymore.
That's Sheldon's perspective on an elementary school. How are the high schools?
Well, you know, kids get older. Any space crunch in elementary schools will reach the high school at some point, so I'll use the experience of one parent. We talked to Preeti Navrula, whose eldest daughter attends Walter Murray Collegiate, a public school on Saskatoon's east side.
It's a great school. It's a very old school over here. It has a great reputation, and she's enjoying her studies over there. However, with the increasing number of children now, the school looks overcrowded. The classrooms are overcrowded, and the stairways to take one class from the other class is overpopulated.
Walter Murray currently has more than 1,700 students. Like Sheldon, Preeti has practical concerns about her daughter physically being able to use a washroom.
When they go to the washroom, there is a long queue, and probably the kids have to wait for 15 to 20 minutes extra over there for their turn to come, during the break time. So most of the time she says that, no, I do not go to the washrooms because I know it's going to take a lot of time and I don't want to miss my lectures. They're so important. And, they avoid going to the restrooms at times.
Wow. So her daughter tries to avoid going to the bathroom during the school day?
Yeah. I mean, she even mentioned that her daughter drinks less water because of this. Preeti also said at lunchtime it can be up to 40 minutes for kids to reheat their food, and that's because there's only one microwave for the whole school. And, as a trained teacher herself, someone that spent over a decade working in education back in India, she's also concerned about class sizes.
The faculty to teacher ratio has got imbalanced, and the teachers are also getting overstressed. They're taking longer hours to correct the papers and give them back on time to the corrections.
Yeah, I can imagine that. So how is the division dealing with this?
Well, portables, or relocatable classrooms, as the province likes to call them, seems to be one of the main solutions. We spoke to Shane Skirvin, the director of Saskatoon Public Schools. He said over the last, 7-8 years, their school division has experienced significant growth, mainly in the northeast corner of the city. If you remember, that's the neighborhood where Sheldon's daughter goes to school. So Director Skirvin said that in addition to her school, Sylvia Fedorik, that Dr. John G. Agnatoff in Arundel is also full. And then going south in the city a little bit, he estimates that Chief Whitecap Elementary School in Stonebridge is one of the largest in the province with over 1,000 kids.
All three of them will be well over capacity. We have applied for portables or relocatables for those schools and have received relocatables in recent years. There's only so many relocatables you can put on a building for code, but we'll continue to try and grow in that area.
Yeah, so very full facilities with a lot of portables. I do remember having classes in portables like back in the 80s, Katie, and the older kids had their classes. So when I finally got into one, I was like, this is so cool to finally be in a portable. But that's a long time ago. And I do wonder, do kids in portable classrooms have a different experience than ones in regular classrooms? Does it matter if you're in a portable or not?
Well, I never made it into a portable, so I don't have that experience. But Director Skirvin says no, it's the same education experience in both types of classrooms.
I would say that the quality of the relocatable in 2025 is significantly different than it was 10 or 15 years ago. These are beautiful classrooms, beautiful facilities. They all fit in with our HVAC systems and operate just like a regular classroom.
He said portables can even be 2 stories, and that most people would not be able to tell that a school has a lot of them when looking at it from the outside. He made a point that those portables can be shifted around if enrollment at one school changes, and it gives the division more flexibility. And going back to the concerns of Sheldon and Preeti about, washroom access, Director Skirvin said the school division has been able to add bathrooms to schools getting portables.
Okay. And I recognize, bathrooms and meeting fire code regulations are super important, and they absolutely need to be met. But there's obviously more that goes into the school experience than just being safe in a building. Did Director Skirvin talk about some of the other concerns that parents have? Like when you have to convert a music room to a classroom, you no longer have a music room.
Yes, and he did recognize this does have an impact on kids.
Our facilities department and our teams are really creative in terms of what we do with the available space that we have. But there is no doubt that it does have an impact on the young people that are attending that school because a dedicated space for music and fine arts is a wonderful thing. And I would say for parents that have children in schools that are overcrowded and, we're having to share gym space or we don't have a music room, I think the feedback sometimes is a little bit of frustration. I think sometimes it's a challenge with some of the schools that are overcrowded. But overall, for me, it's always about the quality of the teacher in the classroom, the way that a child or family is welcomed when they walk through the door of every one of our schools.
He says it's about the quality of the classroom environment and that the division has great teachers.
Yeah, I don't doubt that the division and teachers are always coming up with creative solutions, but are more schools being built to accommodate our growing communities?
Yes, so currently Saskatoon Public is in the process of designing and building 4 new elementary schools and 1 new high school. Some would be in that pressing northeast corner of the city that Director Skirvin mentioned.
But obviously, we would have loved to have seen them built sooner, but we're happy that the projects are underway. So the last couple of years, things have been great. Prior to that, we didn't have a lot of approvals for the past several years. But again, these are government decisions, obviously. Our board works very hard to submit a top 10 capital request to the province every year based on the data that we have. And ultimately, it's the government's decision whether or not to support those locally and or provincially.
Have there been any instances where schools have been at capacity as soon as they open, like that one that you mentioned in Regina in Harbour Landing?
Yes, but I'll let Director Skirvin answer this one directly.
Chief Whitecap would be an example of a school that did open at capacity, but we did forecast that. They opened in 2017. We knew that Chief Whitecap School would be at capacity, so we actually did get approval to put 8 relocatables on at that point in time.
I just want to drill in on one thing that I heard quite frequently while reporting on this story, and that it's parents feel frustrated that planning for schools feels on their end to be reactive, and they are frustrated.
Mm-hmm. I get that that's the tension here. It's the timing. You've got a new neighborhood, it's under construction, people start moving in, but then the question is there a school? And if not, when do you build the school?
Yeah, the school divisions in the province all say deciding on when to put in a new school can be complicated. I think it's important to keep in mind that development does not happen evenly across cities. Certain neighborhoods are more popular and grow faster than others, and some schools being really full does not mean that there aren't spots for students across the division.
Within Saskatoon Public Schools, the vast majority of our schools, we do have significant number of space. And I would say that, on the horizon, these additional projects, as they continue to be built, are much needed and I think are going to be a welcome relief for families in the Northeast. And really, that is the only part of the city where we're really facing significant challenges.
Okay, so education it's a provincial responsibility. And so how are politicians addressing this?
Yeah, the province recently introduced a bill called the Building Schools Faster Act in the fall legislative sitting. It has not passed yet, and it would make municipalities responsible for acquiring land for new schools to be built on. The Education Minister, Everett Hindley, says that this law will help streamline things and give more tools to municipalities to get that land. The money the cities spend on that would be exempt from debt limits. For context, municipalities do not have the same kind of, deficit mechanisms that the federal and provincial governments have. If they do not have the cash flow or the reserve funds already, they cannot spend on big projects. So the land for a new school is competing with everything else the city has to spend money on. Also, that proposed law requires school boards to identify when its division needs a new school, but that kind of already happens. So as it works now, school boards submit the top 10 capitals projects they want every year to the ministry. That includes things like renovations to existing schools, new schools, or more portables, or, the request to shift those portables around.
Right, okay. So in the meantime, Katie, is there a short-term plan to help ease the pressure that some of these schools are feeling?
Yes, more portables or relocatable classrooms, however you want to call them. The province announced earlier this month Saskatchewan schools will get 39 new ones for the 2026-2027 school year. The provincial government is spending almost $30 million on this. We know that Saskatoon will get 23 and Regina will get 11.
And do you think parents will be satisfied with that?
I mean, those extra classrooms are definitely needed in some schools, but considering how long the process is to get this type of school infrastructure approved, whether portables or new buildings, some kids are spending most of their school years in cramped conditions without access to things like a music room. And no parent wants that. Here's how Sheldon described his concerns.
The education that I got growing up is incredibly different than what the kids are getting now for many reasons, but having schools that are bursting at the seams is one of those main reasons. Academically, sometimes I do worry. She's in a school a class of 28 kids. We know that that's not an ideal number. It's not a good ratio of student to teacher.
We also know from Saskatoon Public that the province did not approve the 2 new portables being added to Sylvia Fedoric that Sheldon was hoping for in the last round for the portables that I mentioned, but the division is getting 10 new ones. We'll see in the next provincial budget what capital projects the province will approve next and how much that will move the needle on overcrowding.
Okay, a story that parents will be paying very close attention to, as will we. Katie, thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
That's it for today. Be sure to follow This is Saskatchewan wherever you get your podcasts. We have new episodes every Wednesday and Friday. I'm Alicia Grabinski. Talk to you again soon.